Welcome everybody for this very special edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm here with career coach Wilma Fellman, one of my career coaching idols of all time, because she kind of gets it. And what we're here to talk about today is career. If you need help in your career with your ADHD issues, how do you go find somebody to get your help, and how do you know if they get it?
Okay, first I want to talk about where you go to get it,
Okay.
and then how to define a good person versus someone you might want to run from. Good places to go to get career help with ADD. There are coaches who are online and have been trained, well-trained, who identify themselves as having backgrounds in career issues. So that's one source. If you go to a community college, often for free, they have career centers, and those career centers are manned by or personed by either a career counselor or a career facilitator, which is a paraprofessional. And they are trained to go through the process with you for little or no cost. Universities do this too. Vocational centers do this. Often career centers, if you look in yellow pages in your area, under career centers, and career counselors. Now, who to run from?
So what we just covered is where to go find.
Where to
like,
go to find
Where do
them.
you go look? Now we're like, if you're picking up the rocks, how do you know under which rock to
Yes,
find?
and there's a really easy way.
All right.
And as an initial step, you ask the person, could you give me a list of ADD-friendly jobs?
Okay.
And it's what they do with that question that will determine whether you should run. If they have a list, I would definitely run.
Yes!
If they say they can get a list for you, or we all know what ADD-friendly jobs look like, I would run. If they begin to tell you it's not that easy, that it's a very complex process, that it depends on what you're good at first, then you can start exploring with this person.
Oh my God, I love this. It's like they get it. It's not so simple, and they're not going to pigeonhole you as this is the jobs, because there's no such thing as it.
No, there
I've coached tax attorneys, and I've coached lawyers, and I've coached men of the cloth, and I've accountants. You know,
Yes.
You're not supposed to be good at it. They thrive in that environment. Some of them. People that work for the FAA is very detailed, very methodical. They're not supposed to be able to do that. Oh, but they're supposed to be great salesmen. No, they're not always great salesmen. It is not that simple, because it's as individual as the person.
Exactly. There's so many symptoms of ADD, and we all have a combination of those symptoms to varying degrees. So what might be hard for me may not be hard for the next person. And so it's simply, not simply, it's the opposite of simply, but it is a process of going through and discovering what you're best at, layering one layer over the other, and then overlay what challenges you.
So you have a choice, really, when it comes down to it. You can go and struggle. You can go find a career counselor that doesn't get it and get casted or miscasted a couple more times. Oh my God, that's a lot of work over a long period of time. Or you can sit down, go find them, ask the question, find somebody who kind of gets this.
Yes.
No guarantees, but at least you're hopefully looking under the right rock and going in the right direction. And I will say this, the one thing that I've learned from coaching is when you're working in career counseling, sometimes it's counterintuitive. Sometimes it's not what you should go do, but you really quickly rule out what you shouldn't be doing, which is really kind of cool when you think about it, because you narrow the list so it's not overwhelming, and then you get down to a finite number. And I've coached a lot of people at different times, and the way we keep going is like, I can't do it. No, it's fine. We know the characteristics of the job that you shouldn't look for, and then it comes up, and I would say, well, why should you do it or not? And if there's a lot of things on that list, then run like heck, because miscasting yourself is going to cost you time and money and a blow to your self-esteem. But the cool part is when you get it narrowed down and you see the one that really makes some sense. And wait a second, all these bad things aren't on that list.
It's heaven.
You got something.
It's
really
heaven. And you could be very good at something in one environment and very bad at that same thing in another environment and vice versa. So it's finding out what makes you tick, what energizes you, and in what under what circumstances.
I was coaching an individual one time who wrote software and thrived in a couple environments and left. Was entrepreneur on his own and came to coaching because the wheels were kind of coming off. And we very quickly found that it was really all about people, and he was all by himself. And the pressures of the world, he had to go get a job. So he went and got a job and walked in and he said, "This is great. They do peer programming." And I go, "Peer programming? What the heck is that?" And that's where you program with somebody else. All of a sudden I found out that was where he was before. I was like, holy cow. It's the same job, but the environment is different. And one he's thriving in and the other doesn't. And he says, "I always liked peer programming." I'm like, duh.
Isn't that amazing?
And I will say this, is there's many with ADHD that are motivated in the company of other people. The notion of a body double. And sometimes it's just a function of being around people and interacting. That can be the environmental change that can mean the difference. And I'm just using that as an example so you guys can get an idea what that looks like.
Exactly.
Because it's the same job, but it's a different environment, and you go from misery and procrastination to fulfillment and success at the other extreme just by paying attention to your environment.
Exactly. You can do a job and be totally depleted at the end of the day or week. And you could do the same job in a different environment under different circumstances and be very energized. And obviously, that's the goal.
Yep.
So why work in the other job?
Yeah. My favorite movie is Arthur. And my favorite quote is, "Isn't fun the best thing to have?" So I play around when I'm coaching. Let's coach you so you wake up and go to fun every day, because work is overrated.
Absolutely.
So with that, if anybody wants to contact Wilma, your email address?
WRZF@AOL.com.
And with that, Wilma, as always, a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.